here with Media Watch. We've been talking, of course, a great deal. It's happened within the last hour. The speech by François Hollande, Oliver, announcing what we'd heard already this evening, that Manuel Valls was to be the country's new Prime Minister. Presumably that's attracting a great deal of attention.
It is, yeah. The first reactions we have here are from Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who's obviously a big critic of François Hollande, has been for quite a long time, and his criticisms have only got stronger. He said in his speech that the French, François Hollande has committed political suicide, and his party, the Parti de Gauche, has tweeted here one of his comments saying that this head of state's decision shows that he has understood nothing about the expectations of the French people. Now, there are other people who are on the other side of the political spectrum. There is criticism, and so beg your pardon. So from Pauline Saint-Rémy, who is a French journalist, she said in 7 minutes of a speech that was supposed to gather people together, Hollande spent an awful lot of time saying hello to the left and still found the time to tackle his predecessor Nicolas Sarkozy on the question of justice. Now, the whole thing came after a day of very long decision. A lot of journalists gathered outside the Elysee Palace. People were referring to online as there's no white smoke yet. They very much thought it was like a papal conclave because it went on and on. And of course, Jean-Yves Le Drian, the defence minister, allegedly turned down the opportunity to become prime minister. So there's a little bit of sense of disarray. And a former socialist councillor yesterday, Baptiste, who actually was a councillor until yesterday in Orléans, that he lost his seat. And he tweeted earlier on, Dear Francois, please avoid having a reshuffle on the 1st of April so as to save us the last bit of credibility we have left.
That would be unfortunate.
That is fairly tough stuff from among his own party. Now, Slate earlier on today actually speculated that Jean-Marc Ayrault would be sacrificed both to save the Socialist Party in the coming elections, but also to save France's face. They said that the pair of France and Germany at the moment doesn't really sit too well on the international stage. They compared it to Laurel and Hardy. Now, I'll leave it up to yourself to see who's who in that, but I think we can guess from the tone of it what they say that. They also said that Martin Schulz's possible election as president of the European Commission may be in jeopardy if France and the Socialist Party, and of course it is the leading social left-wing government at the moment as well. So they said that it's possibly the Party of European Social Democrats are a little bit worried about the fact that something that this electoral defeat could actually have repercussions that go well beyond France. And Manuel Valls, of course, is now the big winner here. Not many winners from the Socialists this week, but here we have a rather telling photograph that was tweeted by a Twitter user, Point Greens, and he said double facepalm. And Manuel Valls in this particular photograph looks a little bit, I suppose you might call him Churchillian or Caesar-like, whereas the two gentlemen behind him, Jean-Marc Ayrault, his predecessor, and President François Hollande, are not looking so great, and they've certainly had the worst of it over the last couple of days. And next, we will go to the municipals, yesterday's local elections, which of course are what triggered the whole reshuffling today. Florent Latrive of Libération says that the cities that voted heavily for Hollande yesterday, or in 2012, yesterday were actually the ones that stayed away from the polls the most. And that is pretty much his base. And also, to a large extent, it was younger voters, particularly from lower incomes, who were quite enthusiastic in their, maybe not voting for François Hollande, but voting against Nicolas Sarkozy in 2012. And this time they're saying that Hollande, those who voted more than 60%, actually 43% of those cities, larger French cities, stayed away yesterday. And that went down to 40% for those that voted between 50 and 60. Now, there were actually some winners. There was, of course, Anne Hidalgo in Paris. And so the socialists have managed to quite comfortably hold on to Paris. They lost 1 arrondissement, one of the electoral districts, but they did quite well. Slate here shows the evolution of the political landscape in Paris since the first ever mayor election in 1977. And you can see it changing from rather mixed in 1977 to all blue during the 1980s when Jacques Chirac was mayor, to now it's split pretty much down the middle between red and blue, with a little green circle there in the middle where the Green Party have their election. Now, Anne Hidalgo, her campaign heavily used social media, and she took to it yesterday to say, "Merci Paris," thank you Paris. And it seems to be a very heavily branded campaign. But the first thing she's done is she's asked one of her councillors, Yamina Benguigui, who is also the Deputy Minister for Francophone Relations, to resign because she did not fully disclose her holdings in the transparency report that was ordered last year by President François Hollande. Apparently, Ms. Benguigui has 400,000 euros in shares in Belgium that she did not disclose.
No doubt something we'll be following hearing much more about over the next few days now that her resignation's been called for by Paris's new mayor. Thank you very much indeed, Oliver Ferry, for a look there at what's making news on the internet. We're going to take a quick break now, but we'll be right back to have a look at that stark warning from the UN report on climate change. Soaring carbon emissions are to amplify the risk of conflict, hunger, floods and mass migration this century. We'll be discussing that with Douglas Herbert within the next half hour. Do stay with us.